From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. Teachers in Argentina are staging a 72-hour national strike to demand the government an increase of salaries. Teachers are also demanding for the government to improve school infrastructure and increase investments in the education sector. The academic year for 2019 was set to start this Wednesday, but couldn't be inaugurated. Our correspondent Edgardo Esteban is at the march and has the latest details.
Teachers across the country have called for a 72-hour strike that has started this Wednesday to demand the government of Mauricio Macri the opening of negotiations regarding the increase of salaries. The 2019 school year was set to start this Wednesday, but this hasn't been possible. The strike will extend until March 8, with teachers joining the demonstrations for International Women's Day. Teachers are denouncing that public schools are lacking investment, that there are no funds enough to foster research, and that the infrastructure needs to be modernized. People here are marching to the presidential palace located in Plaza de Mayo to demand a solution to the crisis in the education sector and a decent wage.
That was Edgardo Esteban from Buenos Aires, Argentina. More news now. Close to 20,000 public workers in Peru have been sent home so far in 2019. Now the representing union is demanding that the rights of those workers are respected.
Elizabeth spent 11 years cleaning the streets of the Miraflores district in the Peruvian capital of Lima. But when the mayor decided to change the private company in charge of the street cleaning service, she was fired without any guarantees. Right now, she doesn't know how she will manage to feed her 3 children.
The kids start school soon and I am a single mother. I need to take care of them. I lived for my job and I do not have any. I feel very bad. How am I going to survive now? I will look for a job in the streets. I will beg for help because I do not know what to do. My children need to eat.
250 municipal workers were fired by the company Innova. Neither the company nor the municipality government has assumed any responsibility. A decree signed late last year by President Martín Vizcarra makes it easier for companies to dismiss large groups of workers.
We are mainly women. There are pregnant women, single mothers, widows. This is violence against women. The mayor seems to have hired another company, Petramax.
There are over 80,000 persons working at various municipalities through private companies. That's according to the Municipalities Workers Federation, and these employees can be fired at any given moment.
This is all a consequence of the neoliberal model. The capitalist model does just seek the interests of transnational companies. They do not care about workers' rights. They don't care about workers' stability because they are concerned about their own benefits, especially with what we are now seeing. It's corruption.
The Workers' Confederation of Peru's labor union says labor rights as an expense. It even allows several companies, such as those in agricultural sectors, to deny employees basic labor rights.
Colombia is marking the day for the commemoration to the victims of state crimes. Our correspondent, José Manuel Jiménez, brings us the latest from Bogotá.
This Wednesday, March 6th, is the day for the commemoration to the victims of state crimes in Colombia. This is a very important day for those in the Colombian society who suffer from the violence of the state, the military, and the police, aimed at cracking down the opposition in the country. And because of this Special Jurisdiction for Peace, or JEP, has become especially important in the armed conflict. But the JEP has been under constant attack by the country's Attorney General and by the Central Democratic Party, led by former President Álvaro Uribe. It is especially important that the false positive scandal is solved, so the Colombian people and the world understand the complexity of the armed conflict. It involves cases of extrajudicial killings of thousands of civilians by the military that dress their victims as guerrillas to present them as skilled fighters to the media. Just yesterday, in a public hearing, Colonel Gabriel de Jesús Rincón Amado asked for forgiveness from the families of the victims of the false positive cases who were murdered between 1988 and 2014. He recalled in detail his role in recruiting and murdering 5 young people from Soacha in 2008. Various civil and former army members' organizations, such as the Foundation We Were Heroes, which has about 2,000 former soldiers, say that they have called on President Iván Duque several times to sign a bill that would give more power to the special jurisdiction to rule in the false positive cases and convict members of the military that were previously sheltered from investigation.
The German ambassador in Venezuela has been declared persona non grata by the Bolivarian government. Ambassador Daniel Kriener was one of the several European diplomats who went to meet opposition leader Juan Guaido when he arrived at Caracas airport on Monday. The Venezuelan Foreign Ministry says Kriener has repeatedly interfered in Venezuela's domestic affairs. It says his behavior contravenes basic diplomatic rules. However, it repeated the government's desire to cooperate with all European governments. Meanwhile, various political and civil organizations in Chile have signed a statement criticizing President Sebastián Piñera for his hostile foreign policy regarding Venezuela. Let's hear more on this story. We'll get back to that story, but more news now. An international relations analyst says the United States sanctions against Venezuela violate international law. The experts say the U.S. sanctions against the state-owned oil company PDVSA are not within the framework of the UN. She added the Venezuelan government has all the rights to take legal actions against the United States and the opposition leader Juan Guaido for violating the country's constitution.
The government will surely take actions according to law at the right time. Guaido has indeed been prohibited from leaving the country. Guaido violated the Venezuelan constitution. He not only usurped power, but also betrayed the country. As president of Venezuela's National Assembly, Guaido convened international military forces to intervene in Venezuela's internal affairs. All international sanctions must be carried out within the framework of the United Nations, especially within the framework of the United Nations Security Council. But the U.S. moves violated these regulations. It unilaterally imposed sanctions to overthrow other governments.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, has presented her annual report to the Human Rights Council. Bachelet addressed the Yellow Vest protests in France, the conflict in Cameroon, and the 12-year-long blockade of Gaza, among other main issues. The High Commissioner expressed her concerns for the increasing violation of human rights across the world. She also called for the release of women activists allegedly tortured in detention in Saudi Arabia and the end of violence in Cameroon.
Concerned by alarming instances of hate speech, including by political leaders, as well as serious restrictions on the political space with prosecutions in a military court of a number of members of opposition parties. It is essential that steps be taken now to de-escalate the increasing crisis in the country and prevent a further descent into violence.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Central American organizations have taken a stand against cross-border mining. They demand new regional agreements to suspend these practices, which they say only benefit transnational corporations.
The Central American Alliance Against Mining presented the results of a study carried out in 4 countries in the region, focusing on strategies to defend the environment and human rights against the impact of extractivism mining. They say there's need to be new agreements to ban cross-border mining.
There has been an advance in cross-border mining, especially in protected areas. For example, there are 47 protected areas that are directly or indirectly impacted by mining activities. We also found that within these 4 countries, around 150 surface water sources are affected, without accounting for the impact generated by these activities in terms of groundwater.
The possible reopening of the Cerro Blanco mine on the border between Guatemala and El Salvador is one of the examples of transborder pollution, since the Ostua River flows into the Huija Lake, shared by both countries.
This mine is 15 kilometers away from the border and has polluted water, which is allegedly extracted to clean tunnels in the Ostua River basin, which is part of the high basin of the Lempa River. In that sense, this is a real threat.
The study reveals that 23 indigenous communities of the Central American region are affected. This is a fight for which the indigenous leader Lenca, Berta Cáceres, was murdered 3 years ago, and is also linked to the recent legal process against 12 environmental activists in the Tocoa department of Colón in Honduras.
We are here to demand the release of our comrades, who have been detained illegally by the Honduran army, and also to demand justice in the case of Berta Cáceres in Honduras.
Although metal mining has been banned in El Salvador since 2017, licenses for mining projects granted by other countries affect the entire Central American territory.
Peru has opened a military base in the Amazon region to tackle illegal mining. This is the second phase of an operation that began in February. The military previously freed the Madre de Dios area from criminal gangs dedicated to illegal mining. The base is now meant to prevent criminals from going back. Thousands of hectares were lost last year due to illegal mining, especially gold mining.
We have come here to stay as long as necessary. We have been here for the first phase, and now we're moving into the second, which according to our plan will be 6 months, and then we will make readjustments.
Really what we have is a large development project for the Madre de Dios region. Part of that involves recovering all of this area degraded by illegal mining activities. But we are also trying to develop other productive activities in the other parts of Madre de Dios.
Over 15,000 pounds of conch snail have been confiscated from a fishing boat operating in Jamaica's waters. The vessel, which was flying to the Dominican Republic flag, was intercepted by the Jamaican Defense Force Coast Guard. A total of 57 poachers were found on board, all from the DR. They have been arrested and are expected to be charged. And also in the DR, a number of social organizations have called for an environmental emergency to be declared in the country. Scientific organizations are demanding that measures be put in place to stop mining, pollution, and the destruction of vegetation in mountainous regions. They are also calling for the environment minister's immediate dismissal. The Federation of Cuban Women has started its 10th forum in Havana. More than 360 delegates from 15 regions will participate in the 3-day event. During the meeting, they will discuss topics such as the role of women in the economy, social work, and gender equality. The organization was created in 1960 to fight for women's rights. The Colombian Carnival of Barranquilla has come to an end with a grand parade. After 4 days of revelry, one of the largest carnivals in the world ended with the symbolic funeral of the character known as Joselito. Joselito symbolizes the joy of carnival, and he dies due to excess drinking and partying. The carnival in Barranquilla was started in the 19th century by locals. It was declared an intangible heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2003.
Joselito's death on Carnival Tuesday symbolizes the death of a person from Barranquilla who drank and partied a lot during Carnival. It means 4 days of joy, 4 days of purge. And this is the moment when we cry, because it's the end of Carnival.
Barranquilla's carnival is an example of 3 cultures converging: the black, the white, and the indigenous from America.
And Mardi Gras festivities took hold of New Orleans in the U.S. The final day of Carnival went down with a treat as cheery festival goers enjoyed beverages while watching the colorful parade. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Moves. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The trial for 12 Catalan pro-independence leaders continues in Spain. This time, 2 witnesses with responsibilities in the security forces and the Catalan government have testified. They blamed the Catalan regional police for allowing the celebration of the referendum. Our correspondent in Barcelona, Joan Ortiz, has the latest.
Diego Pérez de los Cobos has said the police did not repress the Catalan people who wanted to vote in the Catalan independence referendum on the 1st of October 2017. De los Cobos was in charge of the security forces, including the police and Spanish National Guard, sent to Catalonia during the Catalan referendum. He began testifying on Tuesday in the trial of 12 Catalan leaders accused of rebellion, and he's continued testifying this Wednesday. De los Cobos also praised the actions of the security forces as excellent and measured. In relation to the Catalan regional police force, called the Mossos d'Esquadra, he said they acted passively and allowed the holding of the referendum. He said the participants in the referendum and demonstrators behaved violently that day. The delegate of the Spanish government in Catalonia, Enrique Millo, has also given testimony in the trial, saying that the violence of demonstrators supporting Catalonia's independence was obvious. According to him, that violence included painting graffiti and making threats. Millo also referred to the Committees for the Defense of the Republic, groups formed with the goal of defending the referendum. He said that some of those groups are very violent. However, Millo was talking about them taking part in demonstrations that took place before the referendum, before those groups had been set up. Both witnesses have referred to the former chief of the Catalan security forces, Josep Luis Trapero Álvarez. Trapero is being tried in another court, so will not take part in this trial. That means that neither he nor his defense will have the opportunity to answer any of the accusations made by De los Cobos and Millo.
We thank John for that report. Former car company Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn has left jail in Japan on bail set on $9 million. Ghosn spent more than 3 months in jail after being accused of financial fraud. He is now awaiting trial, but if found guilty, the former Nissan executive could face up to 15 years in prison. Now that the Syrian government has regained control of most of the country, its return to the Arab League is being debated. Many Arab countries are urging the bloc for Syria to join back, while Saudi Arabia opposes.
Saudi Arabia and Qatar agree that it is too early for Syria to join the Arab League back again. But many say these two countries are following U.S. orders that are preventing Syria from moving forward in its path back to normality.
I have no doubt they are following U.S. orders, something that is not surprising given the fact that these countries have been cooperating with the U.S. in its conspiracy against Syria. They are the ones who are promoting the conflict and putting obstacles for a political solution of the Syrian crisis.
But citizens in the region think Syria should return to the Arab League. For this, a Syrian delegation was invited to the Arab Interparliamentarian Union Summit for the first time in 7 years.
We are proud that this is the position taken by the Arab population. We wish that the Arab regional bodies follow the example taken in the Arab Interparliamentary Union Summit and urge for Syria to again become a member of the Arab League.
Washington is also preventing Syria from being rebuilt. Despite this, countries such as Lebanon, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Sudan, and the United Arab Emirates are opposing this by re-establishing diplomatic ties with Syria and its government.
Sudan's National Assembly is holding an emergency session to discuss the state of emergency decree issued by President Omar al-Bashir last month. On February 22nd, al-Bashir declared a one-year state of emergency across Sudan and dissolved the central and state governments in an attempt to end protests, which have rocked the country since December. Protesters have staged almost daily demonstrations demanding al-Bashir to step down. A strike at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Kenya has grounded flights, leaving hundreds of passengers stranded. The strike came after a labor dispute between Kenya Aviation Workers Union and Kenya Airways. The airline advised customers flying after 11 a.m. not to go to the airport. This was done through a statement on Twitter. Union leader Mos Ndiema was arrested as a court ruled against the industrial strike. Anti-riot police have dispersed picketing ground staff striking at Jomo Kenyatta Airport. Demonstrators say they are striking because of a labor dispute over contracts and job security. A court in South Africa has sentenced two men to 18 and 23 years, respectively, for the murder of a black teenager suspected of stealing sunflower on a farm. The two white men killed a 15-year-old teenager in 2017. The boy died after being thrown off a moving vehicle by two men and breaking his neck. The death toll of a mine collapse in Indonesia has increased to 16 as hopes to finding survivors seem to fade. According to officials, 18 people have been pulled out alive, but it still remains unclear how many were trapped in the collapse. The incident happened sudden beams supporting boards broke to unstable soil conditions, trapping dozens who were illegally mining gold. Media has for long been banned from knowing what happens inside the Scaramaga's refugee camp in Greece, but our correspondent recently got access to the camp. Here's his report.
Skaramangas is Greece's largest refugee camp. After 3 years of trying to get permission to film, we finally got the government permit that allows us inside. Very few news outlets have managed to get the permit. Inside, we meet Nariman, who was sleeping rough on the streets of Athens for several months before moving in here. He's now been here a year.
I just ask Europe for one thing, that it opens the borders, and if not, then it should help people living in refugee camps inside Greece.
Hiro has been living here for 3 years with her husband, 2 sons and daughter. She underwent 6 surgeries in her native Kurdistan in Iraq. Her family fled the Islamic State, and she believed that her health would be better in Europe. But that has not been the case, as she is now suffering from psychological problems as a result of living in the refugee camp.
The living conditions here are very bad. Apart from what you can see, there are often fights that children witness. It's a bad situation all around.
Hiro and her husband have opened a small bakery made of plastics and pallets next to where they sleep. It's so they can earn a bit more money. than the 150 euros they get from the state for being a refugee. But more than anything, it's so they can spend their time doing something productive.
I didn't expect to live like this in Europe. They have rejected our asylum claim, and now we're appealing against it.
The refugee camp, like all camps, was meant to be a temporary solution, but it has now been up for years, and the problem has become chronic. Currently, there are over 2,000 people living here. According to the refugees, the living conditions are even worse now than when it opened. However, small businesses continue to grow. The majority of them are shops selling basic goods for survival. Some of the first businesses have really taken off, such as this shop located at the pier.
It's only people here, and food, just falafel and chicken.
Due to the length of time it takes to get the permit to film here, news outlets have stopped reporting on the plight of the people in this camp. We are here to show how struggling refugees have become enterprising.
And with that report, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And for our viewers in Africa, remember you can find us on StarSat channel 461 in South Africa and channel 539 in Nigeria. We're on social media as well, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.